After the two teams go into the third period, all tied up. Ottawa gets the 2 goals in the third, the eventual game winner on the power play, and then they added an empty netter. Again, it's hard enough to win a game under these circumstances for the Flyers, but you're not going to probably have much success when the other team gets luck like they did on that empty netter or on just amazing 2 saves on Cam Atkinson there in the scramble at the end. Jason, I got to say, I think the Flyers, under the current circumstances, can't be too upset about this loss. There were no huge glaring errors to me in this game. Again, given the circumstances, the back-to-back, the travel, and all the emotions of yesterday, 27 blocked shots for the team tonight is a season high, 7 each for Ristolainen and Braun. The effort's definitely there. Just sometimes the effort's there and the points are not.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't mail it in, that's for sure. I mean, when you block 27 shots a season high, that's commitment and that's character. And then also you couple that with, that they battled it right to the end and trying to find somewhere to gain some energy and put a last push on. And you could see the fatigue out there. You could see the passes weren't crisp. You could see guys weren't, dialed in on the puck, and it was getting hard to handle. And that's what happens when you get tired. Those little things go away, and you're fighting it. And they tried to fight through it. And, and they're not playing a great team, but ultimately, they just didn't have enough in the tank. And you understand why, because of everything that's been going on, not even just this week. That's kind of the culmination of it. And the culmination is not even here yet. That's the deadline.
Right.
When they can finally exhale and go, okay, here's who's here now. Here's how we move forward. But so they're still in the middle of it in some ways, but this has been going on for weeks, talking about the deadline and possible trades. I mean, we just had Rasmus Ristolainen extend his contract instead of being dealt as an expiring contract at the deadline. So there's a lot of variables here that you do need to remember, because, this isn't just, hey, these are athletes and they're supermen and they can just compartmentalize that stuff. You can't, because there's still a lot of variables to deal with.
Yeah, there's so much focus on Claude Giroux in his 1,000th game, that once you get past that, you forget that you've still got guys on this roster who are in the same ballpark as him, where they don't know if they're going to be traded in the next 2 days or not. There's quite a few of them: Justin Braun, Martin Jones. You could even go far as to Derek Brassard. Keith Yandel has a no movement clause, but he could be asked to go somewhere. We'll see how that goes, but there's lots of guys that could be on the move. So it's not just Giroux. Obviously he's the biggest name in the biggest situation, but everybody else on the roster as well, it's got to deal with this on a personal level. So
plus they got to deal with losing. I mean, they haven't won much, so that's another part of it too, and that wears you down.
And for me, the biggest thing that I want to see the Flyers do at some point here soon is to snap this for 2022 streak on the road. They have not won on the road since December 29th. We kind of lost track of it during that 8-game homestand because they got some wins there, but haven't won a road game yet, which is more of a coincidence than anything. I think it's not like they're playing badly on the road. We've seen years where they've been terrible on the road. We've seen years when they've been great on the road, but it's more of a coincidence than anything, I think, for me this year. But they want to get that off their back at some point.
Yeah, and they're going to have, they're going to come back home on Sunday, take on the Islanders, 2:00 game at Wells Fargo Center. Then they're going to head out on the road for 5 games. They'll see Detroit, St. Louis, Colorado, Nashville, and Minnesota. Now, most of those teams are headed to the playoffs. The only one that's not is Detroit. But St. Louis is a legit team that we saw not that long ago at Wells Fargo Center, part of that 8-game homestand. Colorado, just unbelievable, right? And could be against Claude Giroux in that game. Nashville, we just saw, good team, beat them last night. But that obviously is a very good team, and Minnesota's ticketed for the playoffs as well. So going to be tough opponents on the road, and there's no nights off in the NHL, as evidenced by tonight against Ottawa. And, you see teams that, like look at Arizona right now getting wins and beating teams, good teams. This time of year when the pressure's off these teams that aren't going to the playoffs, they are a bit dangerous to the teams trying to jockey for position. So the Flyers need to be one of those thorns.
Yeah, and they can be. They're going to have some opportunities here down the stretch to get in the way of a few teams. They've got in April coming up when they've got probably at least half the games, I would say, against teams that are going to be in a playoff spot, maybe a little less than half. But they've got 2 games against the Rangers. They've got Washington on the schedule, Toronto early in the month, and in the middle of the month. So they have some opportunities there to do that too. And it's they got one more game against Pittsburgh later in the month that is going to be a place where they're going to want to put a good foot forward. And
now that'll be a weird game.
Yeah,
the Pittsburgh game will be a weird game because it won't be Giroux having to deal with Crosby and the Penguins. That will be a bizarre one.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be missing a big piece. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Again, stressing on the the way that these guys put themselves in front of the pucks tonight. And Justin Braun, again is possibly a candidate to move on. And game like tonight, I think, shows what he can bring to a team. Rasmus Ristolainen, for whatever's gotten into him in the last month. I mean, every single night, it's a huge number in the hits or a huge number in the blocks. Sometimes it's both. Tonight, 3 hits, 7 blocked shots. For him. It's heartening to see that they still have have a desire to see this through. Cam Atkinson, 8 shots on goal tonight. I don't understand how those, at least one of those last 2 shots didn't go in. But 8 shots on goal for him. There are guys that are still here and still getting ready to give it everything they got. Kevin Hayes, 7 shot attempts. Provorov, 8 shot attempts, but he gets dinged for 4 giveaways by this off-ice officiating crew. That's something that he'll want back. But again, it's a good thing to see big numbers in some of these columns that very well could be a team that just says we're not going to bother.
Yeah, and some of those columns, like blocked shots, are not glorious columns. That's not the glory thing to do, but it's the team thing to do. Mike Yost talked about that. You can either play the game the way you want to play it or play the way the game needs to be played to win. And there's a difference. And those things, even though they didn't get the win tonight, those are the things you need to do. It is about sacrifice and putting your body in front of shots and making those plays because, it doesn't feel good. The players
Right.
that are blocking shots are not wearing goalie equipment. And even with the goalie equipment, it doesn't feel good sometimes. So, you like to see that. And that's about building character and making sure that any of the character issues that they had and any of the on ice tendencies that were negative are left in this season somehow. So, so they can move forward next year without those identifiable negative traits. And, if you're going to block shots like that and be that guy, that's great. And when you're doing it, when you're not going to the playoffs and the games in essence don't matter, that's telling. So I think that's a good read. And, Ristolainen, I thought, defended the blue line on the PK tonight really well, denying entries. And, he denied one entry, hit the guy, got into a scrum on the boards, and then iced it. Those things are good. And those are the things you need to see out of this group. And look, Brian, the fact of the matter is this is, Giroux's going to be dealt. There's going to be some other guys likely dealt here as well. And it's going to present opportunity for young players to get called up and get NHL experience. And they got to come in and they got to show what they got because this is in essence now a tryout for them.
Yep.
So Chuck Fletcher is going to be evaluating all that and how to move this team forward. And we'll see who shows enough to be a part of it and who doesn't.
And we'll see who else comes in too. The college free agent period is coming up here. Some of the college players the Flyers have out there that might turn pro. Biggest name maybe being Bobby Brink. They may not come straight to Philadelphia, but might see some AHL time. We'll see what happens there. But
see Wade Allison soon, and maybe Igor Zamula or Tanner Lazinski. We'll see some guys, which will be good to see, and get a look. And Brink's a guy that led the NCAA in scoring. Closest guy to him was 13 points back. Mm-hmm. That's pretty pronounced. Great season for him, and Noah Cates is another guy that we're going to keep an eye on. So there's some intrigue here for sure. And there's, this is even though they're not playing for the playoffs, some of these guys are playing for their hockey future.
Yeah.
And, you got to show something.
Yep, absolutely. Well, they'll get a chance to do it starting on Sunday. Flyers will be off tomorrow, back in action Sunday afternoon, 2 p.m. start time at Wells Fargo Center against the New York Islanders, and that will be our next broadcast here along the Flyers broadcast network. That game will be carried on our flagship 97.5 The Fanatic, and right here on Flyers Radio 24/7 as well. So we're going to put a wrap on this edition of the Flyers Game Day postgame show. Been a busy last 48 hours, so Jason needs a lozenge, perhaps.
Yes.
But Coatsy will be back with us on Sunday, we anticipate. And
he better be.
He better be.
I'm going to go pick him up down at the shore.
Hey, well, he needs a driver. He can't drive, apparently.
Oh, that's right. He can't see, so he needs a driver. Call Ricky.
There we go. Well, lots of folks to thank. Ryan Shuttleworth is our engineer back at the studios. I assume Pancake was pulling our highlights tonight and doing a great job of it. And Jason pulling double duty for the second night in a row in the absence of Steve Coates, who again will be back with us on Sunday. For all those folks and Tim Saunders, I'm Brian Smith saying so long. Once again, your final score tonight is the Ottawa Senators 3 and the Philadelphia Flyers 1. We'll talk to you Sunday afternoon right here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
All right. Thanks, man.
See ya, folks.
All right. I'm going to do the podcast and go to bed.
I hear you.
I am gassed.
Yeah, I bet. I didn't even talk all night, and I'm gassed.
That calling a game off the monitor, that's 14 seconds delayed.
Yeah.
Let me just say 2 words. Not ideal.
Not ideal, no.
Not ideal.
It's funny. We got a lot of folks, not a lot, I guess. I don't know. But everybody that I heard from said that they can't tell, so that's good.
Well, like when Tim would get it to me, this is for the streaming audience, when Tim would get it to me, like after a goal, I hadn't seen it yet.
Right, yeah.
So by the time he got it to me, it was just happening on my screen. So I, in essence, was just kind of calling it as it was happening for me, having heard it.
And it's like replay.
Yeah. And it's like dizzying listening to a game and then seeing what happened 14 seconds later.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm going, oh, yeah, he said that. Okay. Now there it is, so it's weird.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, in a normal circumstance, I'm probably sitting here looking at a replay or looking at something on Twitter, and then you hear a goal, and then that's when I know to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Look up.
Yeah.
So and that's where the delay comes in a good way.
Yeah, that's where it's helpful because we and in all honesty, if your folks are listening on the radio and watching, I think our radio feed might be more delayed than the TV feed is, but what Jason and I have is dead on real time, so we come in before the TV. It's strange the way all these technologies line up.
Yeah.
So
well, let's wrap it. All right, everybody on the stream. Have a good night.
We'll
Talk
see
to
you
Sunday.